I invite you to join with me in our chalice-lighting words as the flame is lit. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Welcome into this space of darkness. Come in with your whole self, all your worries and all your celebrations, your sorrow and your joy, your fear and your hope, bring them all in. And let the soft quiet of the darkness hold them. Come in and gather at this time of waning sun and long nights. And may the dark night be a comfort to us, a space for waiting, a space for resting, for growing, for becoming. Welcome into this space of darkness. May it hold us as we are today and as we might be someday. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and sing together our opening hymn, number 387, the words of which will be on the screen, and you can feel free to move your body as you need to see the screen. While we sing, Isabel is going to turn the wheel of our seasons toward winter.
And you will see that this is a chant. We'll sing it quite a few times, and I'll get us started, and then I'll step out to the middle, and I'll ask you to make some changes to the music as you're singing the chant. So be watching and listening.
Now it's time for a story. This morning we tell 3 stories of brave humans organizing underground networks of resistance to oppression. Our first story is about a queen who ruled long, long ago in the 1970s. And she wasn't exactly the kind of fairy tale queen who lived in a castle and ruled an enchanted land. She was a drag queen whose queendom was in New York City, and her name was Crystal LaVeja. She, like many others along with her, would put on the fanciest of clothes and makeup and elaborate hairstyles, and under the cover of night would walk the runways of New York's underground drag ball scene. But Crystal didn't start out as a powerful queen. In fact, for a long, sad time, she had no family to belong to. No one welcoming or loving or caring for her because she was trans. Her gender was different from the one she'd been assigned when she was born, and not everyone was willing to accept that. She was good at pageantry and costumes and drama, and she climbed the ranks of the drag ball world as a young adult, but she found she wasn't a very powerful queen there either. She was a Black woman, and that world was stuck in patterns of racism and discrimination and segregation. In the face of all that rejection and aloneness, a person might have given up, but Crystal LaVeja didn't. She decided to form a network of other people like her, people who had been rejected because of their gender and their race and their sexuality, people on the farthest outskirts of society. So she hosted her own drag balls in semi-secrecy under the comfort and cover of darkness, because there were still those who wished she did not exist. Where trans women of color could feel welcome and loved and cared for, her balls formed the modern basis of what we now know as the art of drag. Crystal started the House of LaVeja, where she formed a chosen family for LGBTQ+ people who also had no one to welcome or love or care for them. She embraced countless queer and trans youth, gave them homes, a family to belong to, and people to rely on. The House of LaVeja still exists as a safe haven for the young people who need it, offering them the freedom to be who they are and be loved for it. And even though Crystal died some years ago, they still call her their queen and their mother. This is the end of our first story.
is a time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week, we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week, the group is Team 6. We meet monthly and coordinate our annual Adopt a Highway and program and our our monthly service collection. And the coordinator for it is Michelle Chapa. If you would like to get involved, please contact Michelle. 1/4 of our plate collection for the darkness season goes to Light Hill, an organization that provides loving, compassionate, specialized care for those who are terminally ill and for their families and loved ones. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket, or if you're joining us from home, by visiting canandaiguauu.org/connection/donate or mailing a check to UUCC at 3024 Cooley Road, Canandaigua, New York 14424. In either case, please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering, and we now gratefully accept the offering.
Our second story of underground resistance takes us even further back in time, the 19th century. This is the story of Henry Box Brown, the man who nailed himself to freedom. Henry Brown was born into slavery in Virginia sometime in the 18-teens. There's little known about his childhood, but we know he married a woman named Nancy as a young adult, and they had 3 children. Henry's world changed when his cruel enslaver sold his wife and children away to another plantation. Henry could not see or contact them or even know where they were. Henry was in a unique position in that his enslaver had leased his time to a factory in town that also paid him a small wage. So he had a very small bit of money and access to people with more freedom than him. Through, you guessed it, an underground network of allies, led by a free Black man named James Smith, Henry hatched a plan for freedom. In 1849, when the day of escape came, Henry burned his hand on the factory floor on purpose to get leave from work. Then his accomplices nailed him inside a wooden shipping crate that was 3 feet by 2 feet by 2.5 feet, a little bit bigger than this table in front of the pulpit. Inside with him, he had a woolen blanket, a small amount of water, and a few crackers. Using Henry's small savings to pay the postage, the network of freedom-loving helpers mailed him to the address of a collaborator in Philadelphia, where slavery was still outlawed. Henry's box traveled for 2 days by wagon, by railroad, steamboat, wagon again, railroad again, by ferry, by railroad again, and finally a delivery wagon before it arrived at the doorstep of Quaker abolitionist Passmore Williamson. Miraculously, Henry survived the journey and emerged from the box a free man. Some of the network of helpers gathered said that when he stepped out of the box, he sang the words of Psalm number 40. I waited patiently for God, and God in kindness heard my call and put a new song into my mouth, even thanksgiving, even thanksgiving. Henry Box Brown worked the rest of his life toward the liberation of every person from slavery. And at the end of his days, he said this about his spectacular journey in the darkness of the shipping box. If you have never been deprived of your liberty, as I was, you cannot realize the power, that hope of freedom, which was to me, indeed, an anchor to the soul, both sure and steadfast. And this is the end of our second story. I want to invite us now into a time of centering and meditation, followed by some shared silence. So I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Perhaps your feet touch the floor, your shoulders relax, maybe your eyes fall closed. As we all remember that by silence, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to each other, so that we can listen more closely to the sounds of life. Our children's wiggles and giggles, the breath of our neighbor beside us, the beating of our own hearts. I waited patiently for God, the psalmist wrote, the free man sang. And who of us has not felt that longing in the darkness, the steadfast yearning for liberation, for justice, for a world transformed? We wait patiently in this dark box built of hope and health, forged from the work and tears and dreams of those who waited before us, who knew the loss of liberty in ways we never could, who risked what very little they had, who embraced the dark underground where roots grow strong and deep. We wait patiently in this dark womb where hope is preparing to be born. In the softness of the dark, we find the words of a new song on our lips. This hymn of thanksgiving that we are ready, so ready to sing together.
Meditation today is number 55. Our own
Time for our third story. This story is adapted from Rabbi Sarah Safedin. Let us now look at a resistance movement that was born underground even further back in time. Long, long ago, before even our grandparents were alive, the Jewish people in Israel were ruled by a harsh empire, and the emperor was named Antiochus. King Antiochus counted many Jews among his subjects, and their customs, their prayer, their holy days were different from the rest of his empire. They celebrated Shabbat, a time of sacred rest every week. They marked festivals like Passover and Sukkot. They worshiped all at the same temple in the city of Jerusalem. And this temple, built by their ancestors before their grandparents were born, was the holiest of holy places, the center of Jewish life. But King Antiochus and his empire did not want to rule over a nation of different religions and many cultures. He wanted to rule over one empire with one religion and one culture. He wanted all the people of his land to live the way he lived and pray the way he prayed. And this meant he did not want the Jewish people to dress differently or eat differently or worship differently. Under the empire of King Antiochus, the practice of Judaism was being abolished. Jewish people were forbidden from reading or teaching or studying their holy scriptures. And perhaps worst of all, they were forbidden from their old ways of worship in the temple. The servants of Antiochus turned the temple into a place that became unholy to its own people, making a real mess and setting up altars to their Greek gods inside. Many Jewish people were afraid for their lives, so they felt they should follow the king's orders. But a few groups of brave souls decided that they would not submit to the empire. They would not worship the foreign gods or give up their Jewish way of life. They started to secretly organize. One such group was called the Maccabees, and they were determined to take back their temple and defend their religious freedom. The Maccabees were named for their leader, Judah Maccabee, and his father, or Judah the Hammer, nicknamed for his fierceness and strength. But in reality, compared with the king's army, they were small in number, mighty only in spirit. In spite of their small numbers and lack of skill or weaponry or resources, the Maccabees won a stunning victory over the army of the empire. The Maccabees successfully took back the temple from King Antiochus, and when they entered it, they were heartbroken to discover the king had not taken care of their holy space. They got to work cleaning and purifying it. They removed all the foreign altars that had been set up inside. They lovingly cleansed every inch of the temple. And then on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, the Maccabees held a rededication ceremony, which included lighting the temple lamp or menorah. Most of the lamp oil had been spilled or made unclean by the empire. The group found only one bottle of oil, just enough to light the menorah for one day. They left the rest of the temple in darkness, preserving the oil for the one menorah. And miraculously, that small amount of oil lasted for 8 days, which is exactly how long it took to get and to sanctify new oil. Tonight begins the celebration of Hanukkah, which lasts 8 nights to honor the miracles that occurred so many years ago and to celebrate religious freedom for every generation. And this is the end of the third story. our celebrations at this time of year, our holidays, are about rejoicing in the return of the sun after the shortest day has passed, about kindling flames to ward off the darkness, about hope in the form of light. But when that's all we celebrate, I think we miss some of the gifts of this season. This year, maybe we can turn our hearts, at least for a little while, toward hope in the form of darkness. There is so much courage, so much promise, so much growth and new life to be found in the quiet calm of the dark. A summer flower may turn its face toward the sun, but its first growth happens in the darkness underground. As we learn from the heroes of our stories this morning, our growth toward the blossoming freedom of new light almost always begins underground. The stories we tell can make it feel like these individuals just snapped, lost all patience with oppression and acted in the moment. But that's not the reality. The reality is that nearly all our movements toward justice are not spontaneous. They grow and organize underground through the long winter. In a space of quiet expectation and connection under the safety of dark. In a space of mystery where waiting and dreaming can happen, new worlds have been born, are being born right now. So let us also this season rejoice in the gifts of darkness as much as in the growing light. May we find room to dream here, to plan here, to reach out and find our interconnection, and like Henry Brown, to wait patiently for a new song of Thanksgiving. May it be so.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Cause the vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains. Sound of silence.
As the words of the hymn say to us, darkness, soothe our weary eyes, that we may see more clearly. May we listen in the darkness for a new song, sung in that still small voice of love eternal. Will you rise in body or in spirit here or at home and join together in singing hymn number 1055, Joyful is the Dark. The words will appear on the screen.
We are not going to extinguish the flame.
But we will carry the light of warmth, the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you.